Hey, welcome back. I'm Alex, and you're listening to English in Fluency, the podcast that helps you understand real English the way it's actually spoken, not the way it's written in a textbook. If you're somewhere around the B1 level, this episode was made specifically for you. And honestly, even if you're a little above or a little below that level, you're going to get so much out of today's lesson. So stick around. This one is good. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a conversation in English? Maybe at work, maybe with a friend, maybe just watching a video, and you understood most of the words, but you still felt like you missed something important? Like the person was trying to say something really matters, but you weren't quite sure what it was? You understood the words, but you missed the message. That's what we're fixing today. Today's topic is all about how English speakers show importance in conversation. And this is one of those things that nobody really teaches you in school. You learn vocabulary, you learn grammar, you practice pronunciation, but nobody sits you down and says, "Hey, here's how a real person tells you that something is a big deal." Nobody explains the hidden signals, the stress patterns, the tone shifts, the little phrases that mean, "Pay attention. This part matters." Well, that's what I'm doing today. We're going to go deep into this. We're going to listen to real conversations. We're going to hear those signals, and by the end of this episode, you're going to start catching them when you hear them in real life. Ready? Let's go. So first, let's just take a moment to think about why this even matters. Why should you care about how speakers express importance? Here's the truth. When you're listening to someone speak in English, not every word carries the same weight. Some things are just background information. The meeting is on Tuesday. Her name is Sandra. Fine. You need to know these things, but they're not the heart of what the person is saying. Then there are other moments, and these moments are different, where the speaker is saying something that really changes everything. Something you absolutely need to understand. And the speaker knows it's important, so they send you signals. The problem is, if you don't know what those signals sound like, you can miss the most important part of the whole conversation. You might remember all the small details and completely forget the one thing that actually mattered. This happens to language learners all the time. And it's not because they aren't smart or aren't working hard. It's because this skill, catching what really matters, is something you have to learn consciously. It doesn't just happen automatically. So today, we're building that skill together. And the way we're going to do it is by listening to conversations between two people. I've created some short dialogue scenes, and in each one, we're going to hear the characters use different ways of showing importance. After each conversation, I'll walk you through what I heard, why it matters, and what you can listen for next time. All right, let's meet our first pair of speakers. Their names are Priya and Daniel. Priya works in a small marketing company, and Daniel is her colleague and good friend. They've just finished a team meeting, and Priya is very worried about something that came up. Listen carefully to how she expresses it. Daniel walks out of the meeting room first, loosening his tie, looking relieved that it's over. Priya comes out right behind him, and she's not relaxed at all. She grabs his arm. "Daniel, hey, wait a second. Did you actually hear what Marcus said in there? I mean, did you really listen?" Daniel turns around, a little surprised. "Yeah, I was there. He talked about the new campaign deadlines, right? Same stuff as always. Priya shakes her head. No, no, Daniel. That's not… Listen, the thing is, this is serious. What he said about the budget. That's the part that matters. He said they're cutting the social media budget by 40%. 40%. That's not a small change. That affects everything we planned. Our whole summer campaign. Everything. Daniel's face changes. Wait, he said that? I thought he was just talking about trimming costs in general. No, I'm telling you. That specific number, 40%. That's what he said. And honestly, I think most people in that room didn't catch it either. But that's the thing that's going to change everything for our team. That's what we need to be talking about right now. Okay, let's pause right there. Now, I want you to think about what you just heard. In that short conversation, Priya was trying very hard to make Daniel understand something important. She wasn't just sharing information. She was saying, this is the thing that really matters. And she used several different tools to do that. Let me walk you through them one by one. The first thing Priya did was ask a question that wasn't really a question. She said, did you actually hear what Marcus said? Did you really listen? Now, she wasn't genuinely asking whether Daniel was physically in the room. She knew he was there. That question was a signal. It was her way of saying, I don't think you understood the significance of what happened. In English, when someone asks you, did you really hear that? Or, did you actually understand what just happened? That's a signal that something important is coming. They're preparing you. They're saying, pay attention, because what I'm about to say really matters. The second thing she did was use repetition. She said 40% twice. She could have just said it once, but she said it again. 40%. That's not a small change. When someone repeats a number, a name, or a fact in conversation, they're doing it on purpose. They want that piece of information to land. They want you to really feel the weight of it. So if you're listening to someone and you hear them say the same thing twice in a row, especially a specific detail like a number or a name, write it down. Remember it. That's almost certainly the important part. The third thing Priya did was use contrast. She said, I think most people in that room didn't catch it. This is a really interesting technique. By saying most people missed this, she's emphasizing how important it is that you, Daniel in this case, actually understand it. It creates a kind of urgency. It's like saying, other people don't know this yet, but you need to. This contrast technique is something native speakers use all the time when they want to highlight something critical. And the fourth thing, maybe the most obvious, but still so important. She used the phrase, that's the thing that's going to change everything. That phrase right there? Change everything. That's one of those expressions that's basically a flashing light in conversation. It means, stop what you're doing mentally and pay full attention to this. We're going to come back to phrases like this later in the episode because there are a lot of them, and once you start hearing them, you'll start catching them everywhere. All right, let's keep going. Let's hear another conversation. This time, our speakers are two friends named Kofi and Lena. They're having coffee together, and Kofi is telling Lena about something that happened with his landlord. Listen not just to the story, but to how Kofi makes sure Lena understands which part of the story is the most important. Lena is stirring her coffee nodding as Kofi talks. So, yeah, basically the landlord called me last week, right? Said there were going to be some changes to the rental agreement. I figured it was just the usual stuff, you know. Maybe updating the contact info or something boring like that. Lena raises an eyebrow. But it wasn't that? No. And this is the important part, Lena. Listen, he said he's increasing the rent. Not by a little, by $300 a month, starting next month. I need you to understand how fast this is happening. Next month. Not in 6 months. Next month. Lena puts down her coffee. $300? Kofi, that's huge. Exactly. And I know it sounds like a lot already, but what's even more critical is that I found out later, and this is the part that really got me. He's doing this to everyone in the building, every single tenant, at the same time. So it's not even like I can just talk to him one-on-one about my situation. This is a building-wide issue now. Lena leans forward. Okay, so what are you going to do? Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. But first, I just needed you to really get how serious this is. Because I've been trying to figure this out alone, and I think I need help thinking through it. Okay, pause. Beautiful example. Did you catch the signals this time? Kofi used something that Priya also used. He announced the important part before saying it. He literally said, "This is the important part, Lena." Now, that might sound almost too simple. But this is real. People do this in conversation constantly. They say things like, "Here's the thing," or "This is the important part," or "Now listen," or "Here's what you really need to know." These phrases are your friends. When you hear them, your brain should immediately shift into high-alert listening mode. Whatever comes after that phrase is the thing you absolutely cannot miss. Kofi also did something really effective with time. He emphasized the urgency of the situation by repeating, "Next month." He said it twice. Starting next month. Next month. Not in 6 months. Next month. This repetition wasn't accidental. He was trying to make the timeline land emotionally, not just informationally. In everyday conversation, when someone keeps repeating a time reference like this, they're trying to get you to feel the pressure they feel. That's an expression of importance through urgency. And then, and this is a technique that's a little more advanced, he used a contrast between what he expected and what actually happened. He said, "I figured it was just the usual stuff, maybe updating the contact info or something boring like that." And then he stopped. And then he revealed the real information. That contrast, the boring expectation versus the shocking reality, is a narrative tool that speakers use to prepare your brain for something significant. It's like a ramp that leads up to the important moment. When someone says, "I thought it was nothing," and then pauses, get ready. Because what comes next is the thing that matters. Now I want to take a moment to talk about something slightly different: the role of tone and stress in expressing importance. Because so far, we've been focusing mostly on the words themselves. But in spoken English, how you say something is just as important as what you say. Let me give you an example. I'm going to say the same sentence 2 ways, and I want you to notice what changes. Version 1. We need to finish the report by Friday. Version 2. We need to finish the report by Friday. Same words, completely different meaning. In the first version, it's a reminder, a piece of information. In the second version, The stress on need tells you that this is non-negotiable. This matters. The speaker is telling you, this is not optional. This is not flexible. This is a priority. This is called stress, and not the emotional kind. Stress in linguistics means the emphasis you put on certain syllables or words. And in English, stress is one of the primary tools that speakers use to communicate importance. When a word is stressed, when it's said louder, slower, or with more energy, it usually means that word is carrying the key meaning of the sentence. Let me give you another example. Listen to this phrase. I didn't say she stole the money. Now I'll say it again with different stress each time. I didn't say she stole the money. Meaning, maybe I implied it, but I didn't actually say it. I didn't say she stole the money. Meaning, maybe someone stole it, but I'm not pointing at her specifically. I didn't say she stole the money. Meaning, maybe she borrowed it, maybe she took it for other reasons, but I didn't use the word stole. I didn't say she stole the money. Meaning, maybe she took something else, but I wasn't talking about money specifically. It's the same sentence, 7 words, but the stress completely changes what's important and what the speaker means. This is why, when you're listening to English, you have to listen to how words are said, not just which words are said. The stress is the signal. The stress tells you what the speaker thinks is the key piece. Now let me bring back our cast of speakers. This time, let's hear from a woman named Vivienne, who is a teacher, and her student, a young man named Thomas. Thomas has been struggling in class, and Vivienne has called him in after school to talk. This conversation has a lot of emotional weight in it, and I want you to notice how Vivienne communicates importance in a very direct, caring way. Thomas sits across from Vivienne's desk, looking a little nervous, his hands in his lap. Thomas, I appreciate you coming in. I know you probably had other things to do today. It's fine, he says quietly. Vivienne leans forward a little. I want to talk to you about the last few weeks, not to make you feel bad. That's not what this is. What I really want you to hear is this. I believe you can do this work. I genuinely do. But something has changed. And I think it's important that we figure out what. Tomas shifts in his seat. I've just been tired. It's been a lot lately. Vivienne nods. I hear you, and I don't want to dismiss that. Being tired is real. But, and I want you to really think about this, missing 3 assignments in a row is different from missing one. Do you understand what I'm saying? 1 assignment, okay, life happens. 3 in a row tells a different story. And that story is what concerns me. Tomas looks up. You think I'm giving up? I think, Vivienne says carefully, that the most important thing right now is not whether you pass or fail this class. The most important thing is whether you know you have support. Because I can help you. Your counselor can help you. But only if you let us know what's actually going on. That's the thing I need you to walk away from this conversation understanding. You are not alone in this. Tomas is quiet for a moment. I didn't know you noticed. I notice everything, Vivienne says simply. That's my job. And noticing you, that's not a burden. That's what I'm here for. Beautiful. Let's pause and look at this one closely, because Vivienne is doing something really sophisticated here. She's communicating importance not just through words, but through structure, through the way she organizes what she says. Notice that she says, what I really want you to hear is this. And then she gives the most important statement. That phrase, "What I really want you to hear," is one of the clearest important signals in English conversation. It's the speaker literally telling you, "I've said a lot of things, but if you only remember one thing from this conversation, make it this." When you hear something like, "What I want you to understand is," or "What I really need you to know is," pay very close attention. The next sentence is the heart of everything. She also used what I'd call a contrast escalation. She said, "One assignment? Okay. Life happens. 3 in a row tells a different story." She contrasted the less serious situation with the more serious one to help Thomas feel the difference. And then she used that word. That story is what concerns me. The word concerns is a calm but serious word. It's not panic, it's not anger. But in this context, it signals genuine worry. It signals, "This is something I am actively thinking about, and it matters." And then, and this is my favorite part of the whole conversation, she said, "The most important thing right now is not..." And then she told him what it wasn't, before telling him what it actually was. This is a really interesting rhetorical technique. By first saying what doesn't matter, she makes room for the thing that does matter to feel even more significant. It's like clearing the stage before the main performer comes out. When a speaker says, "The most important thing is not X, it's Y," your brain immediately puts all its attention on Y. That's exactly what she wanted. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. We've been looking at conversational signals. Now I want to talk about some of the specific phrases and expressions that English speakers use to signal importance. I'm going to give you a big list of these, and I'm going to explain each one so you can recognize them when you hear them. I'll also give you a little example for each one, so you can hear them in context. These are real phrases. You will hear these in everyday English, in movies, in podcasts, in office conversations, everywhere. Once you start knowing what to listen for, you'll start hearing them all the time. The first one is, "Here's the thing." This is one of the most commonly used phrases in informal English conversation. It almost always comes right before the speaker says something they consider to be the core point. Something like, "We've been trying to fix this problem for weeks. But here's the thing. We've been fixing the wrong thing. The real problem is deeper than that." Did you feel it? "Here's the thing" prepares you. It says, "Everything I've said before this is context. What comes after is the real message." The second phrase is, "What it comes down to." This is used when a speaker wants to cut through all the complicated details and get to the essential point. I know there are a lot of factors here, and we could talk about all of them. But what it really comes down to is trust. Do we trust this person or not? The speaker is saying, "I'm going to simplify this for you." And the simplified version is the important one. The third phrase is, "The bottom line is." Very similar to "what it comes down to," but often used in slightly more professional or direct contexts. We ran the numbers, we looked at every option, and the bottom line is, we can't afford it right now. The bottom line is the final essential truth. It's the thing that can't be argued with, at least in the speaker's mind. The fourth phrase is, "What you need to understand is." This one is especially useful to know because it often carries a slight emotional weight, like the speaker is a little frustrated, or they're being very serious. I've explained this 3 times already, But what you need to understand is that we don't have more time. This decision has to be made today. The speaker is not just informing you. They're emphasizing that your understanding of this point is critical. The fifth phrase is more than anything. This is used to express what the speaker considers the highest priority. More than anything, I want you to be safe. It's saying, if I had to rank everything I care about in this situation, this is number one. More than anything, this project needs strong leadership. That's the one thing we can't compromise on. When you hear more than anything, the thing that follows is at the very top of the speaker's hierarchy of importance. The sixth phrase is, I can't stress this enough. This one is really direct. The speaker is literally telling you that words alone can't fully express how important this is. I can't stress this enough. You have to read the contract before you sign it. Every line. Don't just skim it. This phrase is a red flag in the best way. It means, whatever comes after this is so important that the speaker feels they can never say it strongly enough. Take it very seriously. The seventh phrase is, of all the things, or above all. These are slightly more formal expressions, but you'll hear them. Above all, remember to stay calm in the interview. Your qualifications are strong, but above all, be yourself. The phrase, above all, puts one item at the top of a mental list. It's the speaker saying, everything else I said is good, but this is the thing I want you to hold on to most tightly. The eighth phrase is, the thing is. Very close to, here's the thing, but often used when a speaker wants to gently introduce a complication or a difficult truth. I know you've been working really hard, and I appreciate that. The thing is, hard work alone isn't enough here. We need a different approach. The thing in this phrase is almost always a complication, a reality check, or a key insight that the speaker needs you to sit with. The ninth phrase is, whatever else happens. This is used to separate one piece of information as so critical that even if everything else changes, this should stay constant. Whatever else happens during the presentation, make sure you leave time for questions at the end. That's when the real connections happen. The speaker is saying, I don't know what the future looks like, but I'm certain about this one thing. The 10th phrase is, if there's one thing you take away from this. Oh, this one is so important. If you're in a meeting, a lecture, a conversation, or any kind of informational exchange, and someone says, if there's one thing you take away from this, you drop everything else you're thinking about, and you listen. That phrase is a gift. It's the speaker doing the work of sorting through everything they've said and handing you the most valuable piece on a silver platter. If there's one thing you take away from this presentation, it's that customer trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. That's the whole lesson. Right there. Now let's go back to our characters and hear another conversation. This time, let's listen to two siblings, a brother and sister named Marcus and Yemi. They're talking about their aging mother, and they're trying to figure out what to do about her living situation. This is an emotional conversation, and I want you to notice how importance is expressed not just through phrases, but through the emotional intensity behind the words. Marcus is standing by the kitchen counter, arms crossed. Yemi is sitting at the table, looking tired. I just think we need to do something, Marcus says. She can't keep living alone like this. I know, Yemi says. I've been thinking the same thing. But Marcus, she doesn't want to move. She's made that very clear. What she wants and what's safe are two different things right now. Yemi sighs. I know, but, and I need you to hear me on this, we can't make this decision without her. She has to be part of this conversation. If we just decide things for her and tell her, that's going to hurt her. A lot. And I think that's going to make everything worse. Marcus is quiet for a moment. I hear you. I do. But here's what I keep coming back to. Last Tuesday, she left the stove on. Not for an hour. For 6 hours. 6 hours, Yemi. If the neighbor hadn't smelled it and called, I don't want to think about what would have happened. Yemi's face goes still. I didn't know it was 6 hours. That's the detail that matters, Marcus says quietly. Not the fact that it happened. We knew it was happening sometimes. But 6 hours is a completely different thing. That tells us something new. And that's what changed my mind. That one detail. Yemi puts her head in her hands. Okay. So what do? We talk to her, Marcus says. Together, as a family. But we have to be honest with her. That's the most important thing right now. Not the solution. The honesty. She deserves to understand what we're concerned about. Let's stop here. In this conversation, both Marcus and Yemi are expressing importance, but they're doing it in different ways. And that's something really worth noting. People have different styles of communicating what matters to them. Marcus uses a specific, concrete detail, the 6 hours, to make his point. He doesn't just say, "It was bad." He gives you the number. And then he repeats it. Not for an hour. For 6 hours. Specific details like this are one of the most powerful ways to express importance in conversation, because they make the situation feel real and undeniable. When someone gives you a very specific number or fact in the middle of a conversation that's been generally vague, that detail is almost always the key point. It's the speaker saying, I don't want you to generalize this away. I want you to feel exactly how specific and serious this is. Yemi, on the other hand, uses an appeal to process. She says, I need you to hear me on this. We can't make this decision without her. She's not using a dramatic detail. She's using a principle. She's saying, there's a right way to do this, and that right way is the most important thing. When speakers use phrases like, I need you to hear me on this, or listen to me for a second, they're asking you to temporarily suspend your own thoughts and really take in what they're about to say. It's an emotional request, not just an informational one. And then Marcus, at the end, distills everything down to its essence. Not the solution, the honesty. That brevity, those 4 words, carries more weight than a paragraph would. When a speaker suddenly goes very short and very direct after a long, complicated conversation, that's a signal that they've found the core of the issue. Short sentences in the middle of emotional conversations often carry the biggest weight. All right, we're making great progress. Let's now talk about something a little more nuanced. How speakers use silence and pausing to express importance. This might surprise you. You might think that silence is the absence of communication. But actually, in spoken English, pauses are incredibly communicative. When a speaker pauses, especially right after saying something, they're often doing it on purpose. They're giving you space to feel the weight of what they just said. They're letting the important thing land. Think about it this way. If I say, the company lost $1 million last quarter, and immediately keep talking, that number washes past you before you can fully process it. But if I say, the company lost $1 million last quarter, and then I stop. Suddenly, that number has room to breathe. You feel it. You absorb it. The pause created the emphasis. Great speakers, great teachers, great storytellers. They all know how to use pauses. And when you're listening in English, a pause after a statement is often a signal that the speaker is giving you time to let the important thing sink in. Don't use that pause to mentally check out. Use it to absorb. Similarly, when a speaker slows down, when they start speaking more deliberately, that's a signal. It's like they're saying, I'm putting each word down carefully because I don't want any of them to be misunderstood. Slowness and deliberateness are markers of importance. Let's hear one more conversation. This time, we have two co-workers, a project manager named Isabel and her junior colleague, a young man named Ruben. They're in a brief hallway conversation, and Isabel has something urgent to communicate. Notice how she does it in just a few sentences, efficiently, clearly, and with strong signaling. Ruben is heading to the break room when Isabel stops him. Ruben, quick second. He stops. Sure, what's up? The client moved the deadline. It's not Friday anymore, it's Wednesday. This Wednesday, 2 days from now. Ruben blinks. Wednesday, this week. Yes, and I want to be really clear. This is not a flexible deadline. The client has an internal presentation on Thursday, and our deliverable is the centerpiece of it. If we don't have it ready by Wednesday evening, it's not late. It's gone. There's no catching up. Ruben nods slowly. Okay, so the report I'm working on, top priority. More important than anything else on your list. I'd drop everything else today and tomorrow. Just that. Got it. I mean it, Isabel says, holding eye contact for just a second longer. This is the thing that matters right now. Everything else can wait. Short, direct, but absolutely packed with signals of importance. Did you notice what Isabel did? She said, I want to be really clear. That phrase, I want to be clear, or let me be clear, or to be very clear, is one of the most reliable signals in English that something critically important is about to be said. It's the speaker saying, I don't want any ambiguity here. I want you to understand exactly what I'm saying. These phrases often come before the most non-negotiable critical piece of information in the whole conversation. She also used a very strong contrast. It's not late. It's gone. 2 short sentences, completely parallel structure. And the contrast between late and gone is enormous. Late means you can still fix it. Gone means it's over. That contrast communicates the urgency far better than a long explanation would. And she ended with something very simple, but very powerful. I mean it. Those 3 words, said at the end, are a kind of double emphasis. It's the speaker saying, I know what I just said sounded urgent, but I want you to know it wasn't just language. It wasn't just professional speak. I genuinely mean what I said. When someone says, I mean it, at the end of a statement, that statement is the most important thing they said in the whole conversation. Now, let's do something a little different. I want to give you a listening challenge. I'm going to tell you about a situation and then describe a short conversation. And I want you to try, on your own, to identify where the important information is. After you've thought about it, I'll tell you what I found. Here's the situation. 2 neighbors named Charlotte and Kwame are standing outside their apartment building. Kwame recently came back from a long trip, and Charlotte has news about the building. Charlotte is waiting by the mailboxes when Kwame walks in. She looks a little worried. Kwame, you're back. Welcome back. How was everything? Good, good, really good, actually. I'm exhausted, but it was worth it. What's new around here? Everything okay? Charlotte hesitates. Yeah, mostly. Actually, listen, there is something. You should know this before you see your mail. The building management sent a notice while you were gone. It was in everyone's mailbox, so you probably have one too. Kwame frowns. Okay, what was it about? There's a problem with the water pipes in the east wing, your side of the building. They found something during the inspection, a crack in one of the main pipes. It's not a crisis yet, but, and this is the part I want to make sure you understand, they're going to have to shut the water off for repairs for 3 days, starting this Saturday. Kwame stops. This Saturday. Yes, they gave very short notice, I know. I was annoyed too. But I figured I'd tell you in person because it's easy to miss these things in official letters. Kwame rubs his face. 3 days with no water. Okay, I need to think about this. Thank you for telling me, Charlotte. Of course. And Kwame? One more thing. If you need to stay somewhere else during those 3 days, my sister has a place nearby. I already told her she might get some calls from the building. She said it's fine. Kwame looks genuinely touched. Charlotte, thank you. That's really kind. All right. So here's the question. In that conversation, what was the most important information? And what signals told you that? Take a moment. Think about it. Okay, let's look at it together. There were actually several pieces of information in that conversation. Kwame's return, the notice from management, the pipe problem, the water shut-off, the dates, and Charlotte's offer of help. But the single most important piece of information was the water shut-off starting this Saturday, for 3 days. How did I know? First, Charlotte used the phrase, "This is the part I want to make sure you understand." That announcement phrase is one of the strongest signals in the whole conversation. It's her literally telling Kwame and us that what comes next is the most critical thing. Second, she gave a specific number, 3 days, and a specific date, this Saturday. The specificity is a signal. Vague information doesn't usually change your plans. Specific information does. Third, Kwame repeated the most important detail back. This Saturday. He echoed it. This is what listeners naturally do when they've caught the most important piece of information. They repeat it back, either to confirm it or to let it sink in. And fourth, the offer at the end, Charlotte's sister's place, is directly connected to the most important piece of information. When a speaker gives you a solution right after delivering important news, it confirms that the news was significant enough to require action. So that's a good example of how all the signals work together. The announcement phrases, the specific details, the repetition, the follow-up action, they all point to the same place, the same piece of information. And once you know what to look for, it starts to feel almost obvious. But here's something I want to say about this. Learning to catch what's important in English conversations is not just a listening skill. It's a cognitive skill. It's a skill of attention. And like any skill, it gets better with practice. Right now, we've been doing this practice in a controlled way. I've been guiding you, pointing things out, walking you through each signal. But the real practice happens when you're out in the world, listening to real English, and you have to catch these signals yourself in real time. So how do you practice? Here's what I want you to do. For the next week, every time you're listening to a podcast, watching a YouTube video, having a conversation in English, or watching a TV show, I want you to play a little game. Every few minutes, ask yourself, what was the most important thing the speaker just said? And then ask yourself, how did I know? What signal told me? Was it a phrase they used? Was it a repeated detail? Was it a sudden change in their tone or pace? Was it a specific number or name? Was it that they said, "Here's the thing," right before? At first, you won't always be right. That's completely normal. Even native speakers miss things sometimes. But over time, you'll start to notice these signals automatically. You'll hear someone say, "I want to be clear," and your brain will snap to attention without you even deciding to. That's the goal. Not conscious effort. Automatic recognition. And I want to add something here that I think is really encouraging. You actually already have some of this skill. In your first language, you can tell when someone is saying something important. You can feel it. You can hear it. The challenge with English isn't that the signals don't exist. They do. The challenge is that you haven't learned to map the signals from English onto that same feeling yet. And that mapping is exactly what we've been doing today. Let me bring you one final conversation for this episode. Our last speakers are two people named Frankie and Delilah. They're partners in a small business, a little bookshop cafe, and they're having a very honest conversation about where the business is going. This conversation is a little more serious in tone, and I want you to notice how both characters express importance and also how they listen to and acknowledge what the other person is saying. Frankie and Delilah are sitting in the back of the closed cafe, surrounded by coffee cups and papers. It's late. The shop is dark except for the backroom light. "I've been putting off this conversation," Frankie admits, "but I think we need to have it." Delilah looks at the table. "I know. Me too. The numbers from the last 3 months, Delilah. They're not improving. And I need us to talk honestly about what that means." Delilah nods slowly. "I've been looking at them too. And here's the thing. I think I know what the problem is. I've just been scared to say it out loud." Frankie's voice is quiet. "Say it. The cafe part is doing fine. People love the coffee. They love the space. But the books, the actual books, we're barely moving any. And the books were supposed to be the heart of this. That was the whole point. If the books aren't working, then what we have is just another coffee shop. Which is fine. But it's not what we built this to be. That's what scares me." Frankie is quiet for a long moment. "That's what I've been thinking too. And I want to be honest with you. I don't think we can fix that with small changes. This isn't a "let's rearrange the shelves" problem. This is a fundamental question of what we want this place to be. So, what do you think we should do? "I think," Frankie says carefully, "the most important thing is that we decide together. Not that I fix it, not that you fix it. We decide what this shop is actually for, what we care about more, the cafe or the books, or some version of both that we haven't tried yet. Because until we agree on that, any decision we make is just a guess." Delilah looks at Frankie for a long moment. "I appreciate you saying that. I really do. Because I think what I need most from this conversation, more than a plan, more than solutions, is to know that we're still on the same side." Frankie reaches across the table. "We are. Whatever else happens, that's the one thing I'm sure about. There it is again. Whatever else happens. That phrase we talked about earlier, used by Frankie at the very end. It puts one truth, there on the same side, above every other uncertainty. It's a way of saying, I don't know how everything else will turn out, but I know this. And this is what matters most. Did you notice how Delilah named her most important need in this conversation? She said, what I need most from this conversation, more than a plan, more than solutions, is to know that we're still on the same side. That phrase, more than X, more than Y, is a structure that puts a hierarchy on importance. It's like building a ladder and showing you the top rung. She's saying, I have multiple needs right now, and I'm going to list some of them, but the one at the end of the list is the highest priority. And Frankie's answer, direct, short, confident, we are, is the perfect response because it goes right to the heart of what was asked. When someone uses all those signals to tell you what matters most to them, and you respond directly to that thing and only that thing, it shows that you heard them, that you understood. And in real conversations, being understood is one of the most powerful things that can happen. All right? We're coming to the end of this episode, and I want to bring everything together for you, because we've covered a lot today, and I want to make sure the most important pieces are crystal clear. Here's the summary. When English speakers want to show that something is important, they use a combination of tools. They use announcement phrases, things like, here's the thing. This is the part I want you to understand. Let me be clear. More than anything. And if there's one thing you take away. These phrases are the speaker's way of flagging what matters. When you hear them, you pay full attention to the next sentence. They use repetition, saying a key detail, number, or fact more than once to make sure it lands. If you hear something twice in quick succession, treat it like it's underlined. They use contrast, setting up what isn't important, or what they expected, in order to make the real important information feel even more significant. The contrast creates emphasis. They use stress, putting more energy, more volume, more emotional weight on certain words to tell you that those words carry the most meaning. They use specific details, concrete numbers, dates, names, that cut through the general and make the situation feel real and undeniable. They use structure, building toward the important thing, or saying, it comes down to, or the bottom line is, to peel away everything else and leave only the core. They use silence and pacing, slowing down, pausing, giving you space to feel the weight of something significant. And they use emotional signals when someone's voice changes, when they get quieter or more deliberate, when they suddenly speak in shorter sentences. That change itself is a signal that you've arrived at the important part. All of these tools work together. And once you start hearing them, really hearing them, your understanding of English conversation is going to jump to a completely different level. Not because you know more vocabulary, not because your grammar got better, but because you learned to listen to what's really being said, underneath all the words. That's the skill. That's what we practice today. And I am genuinely proud of you for doing this work. Because it's not easy. But you did it. You stayed with me through this whole episode, and that tells me something important about you. It tells me you're serious about this, and people who are serious about learning English who show up and do the real work. They get there. They always do. Now, here's your call to action. And I really mean this one. Go back and re-listen to this episode, or a part of it. Pick one conversation, maybe Priya and Daniel, maybe Frankie and Delilah, and listen to it again with fresh ears. This time, don't just follow the story. Listen specifically for one signal. Just one. Maybe it's the announcement phrases. Maybe it's the repetition. Pick one thing and hunt for it. You'll be surprised how many times you find it. And then, if you want to keep practicing, go find an English podcast or YouTube channel that covers real conversations. Not scripted textbook dialogues, but real people actually talking. Try to do the same thing. Every few minutes, ask yourself, what was the most important thing said just now? How did I know? If you're enjoying English in Fluency, and this kind of deep, practical listening practice is what you're looking for, please subscribe to this podcast. Leave a review if you can. Share this episode with someone who's learning English. Because every time you share this, another learner gets to have this experience, and that means a lot to me. And I want to hear from you. I genuinely do. What was the most useful part of today's episode? Was it the phrases, the conversations, the explanation of stress? Send me a message, leave a comment, reach out. I read everything. Your feedback is what makes this show better. I'm Alex. This is English in Fluency. And I'll see you in the next episode. Keep listening. Keep practicing. And remember, every conversation you hear in English is a chance to catch something that really matters. You've got the tools now. Go use them.